In this video, I want to show you how to create eerie cinematic sounds using the Orchestral Percussion expansion library, along with the sound design features and mixer effects of Superior Drummer 3. We'll start with the default preset, and we're going to go into the mixer. Now, the first thing I want to do is raise the outrig. I want a bit more room sound. And then what we're actually going to do is add the front left right. We're going to turn that up even more than the outrig. We're going to really exaggerate this room sound just to start out. The instrument we're going to focus on first is the tam-tam. And we're going to load all articulations. And I want you to focus in on these bottom articulations. These are great articulations just to use by themselves for some cinematic and kind of eerie sounding effects. But when you couple that with a series of mixer effects and sound design adjustments within Superior Drummer 3, you can get some really unique sounds. So we have some brush hits, some scrapes. Let's take a listen to these. So I love all of that. All of that sounds great as it is, but let's jump into the mixer. We're going to use the front left right as our effects channel and add an effects chain of 6 effects to manipulate the sound. So the 6 effects we're going to use are the plate reverb, the dimension T, the string machine chorus, the creative filter, the tremolo, and the 1981 classic echo. Now right now they're all enabled and in a default state. If we listen to the drums, it will have an impact on the sound, but we're going to tweak these quite a bit. First thing I want to do is take the plate reverb. We'll turn up the reverb time just a little bit, and we'll increase the size, adjust the shape. A lot of these settings are going to be quite subjective. I'm going to turn down this diffusion, and I want to turn down the color as well, which will bring down some of the high end. Now, very important, we're going to turn the dry-wet mix all the way up. So this is going to really saturate this left-right channel. In fact, let me solo it for you so you can hear. We're getting a lot of that tremolo and echo right now, so I'm going to turn those off. We'll circle back to those. An interesting and unique sound that we have going on so far. With the Dimension T, we're going to turn it all the way on. You have 4 settings. This creates a unique stereo type of chorus sound, and each button combination will be a little bit different, but we're going to turn them all the way on. String machine, we're going to leave at the default state, so we won't mess with that. Now, the creative filter, this is where we're going to spend some time because you have a lot of leverage here with what you can do. Already, that's a completely different sound. Now we're doing some filtering with the creative filter, so I want to turn that off as well. That will affect the sound. So I love how that sounds, even with just those first 3 effects, the plate reverb, dimension T, and the string machine. Now we'll turn back on the creative filter. We're going to keep the low pass on. We're going to turn up the cutoff frequency. And let's increase this to about 3.5. and we're going to increase the octave too. This will give a more exaggerated effect. I'll press Control Option so we can bring in our sample pad. We'll pin it so we can keep hitting the gong. Now check that out. Just one change with the cutoff frequency. We're bringing in more of those high frequencies and we have a completely different sound. Without. You can hear how big of an impact that makes. And you can actually automate this, change this in real time, and get some really unique effects. We'll get an even more extreme effect if we turn up the resonance. Now, I do want to say, be careful with this because you can get some really extreme harmonics and resonance sounds, but it's a lot of fun to do to come up with some creative results. And if we push the pole octave to 24, we'll get even more extreme resonance effects. I like that at the end, where if we really increase and maximize the resonance as the waveform of the sample decays, we bring in some of those high harmonics. Again, that kind of adds to the eerie type of sound we have going on here. And depending on the cutoff frequency, that will affect the resonant sound as well. Love that. So we turn down the cutoff frequency, listen to those harmonics that we get. Now you could experiment with some of the other modes here, high pass. So we're going to be rolling off low end instead of rolling off high end. But I really like this low pass option. Now, don't forget we have these other articulations that work really, really well. So a whole lot of fun to experiment with the settings in the creative filter. Now, we still have two more effects that we're not using, the tremolo and the classic reverb. If we turn on the tremolo, we can listen to what that sounds like. Now, we already heard it before. It's set to a slow tremolo right now. If I do this scrape effect, for example, it's a really slow tremolo, which may be desirable, but what I'm going to do is just increase the speed by turning the dial all the way up. We could also enter the highest rhythmic rate, and now you get that really fast tremolo sound, which I think can add another element to these cinematic and eerie sound effects. And finally, we have the classic echo. Now we're going to leave everything at the default state right now except for the dry wet dial. We're going to turn the wet dial all the way up just like we did with the plate reverb. And this is going to give us just another texture in addition to everything else that we've done. Let's actually listen to the gong without once again. Just adds another element to this mix. Now, you're not really hearing the echo because we're not doing staccato sounding instruments. If we use the snare, there you can really hear the echo. Because we have such a staccato sound to begin with, you hear the echo that's happening. But with the tam-tam, because the sound eases in, it all kind of just rolls together, but it still adds an element to this sound. Now, we can increase this echo effect by increasing the repeat. Really extending that out, and then if we delay one of these sides, we just have to change the dial a little bit on the delay left, delay right. We'll get a stereo field effect. Now, if you have headphones, you can hear that the echo kind of shifts to the right side. So that's another way to just add a unique character to these sounds. So a lot of creative options here. Let's go back to one of our earlier settings. So we're kind of back to where we were before. This is that horror effect. So up to this point, we've used everything in this soloed front, left, right channel, which is fine, and that's a way you can extract some of these sounds. But before we conclude, I want to just remind you that we can unsolo that channel. Now we'll bring in the mains and the outrig, and so we'll have the unaffected sound along with this as well. And with that resonance and that specific setting with the cutoff frequency, you can hear we get that low end with the harmonics, all that high end rolled off, but we're still getting the high end from the mains and the outrig. That's actually a perfect example to end with here. So you can hear what that does by unsoloing and soloing the front, left, right channels where we put all of these effects. So that's a way you can get creative with the Superior Drummer 3 effects to create eerie cinematic sounds with the Orchestral Percussion expansion library. You could apply any of these principles to any drum, any channel, for infinite possibilities.